Hello! It's Wednesday. I'm talking to you. How is everyone? Hi, Molly. Hi, Marie. So for those of you who are not local to Colorado, we have snow. It's starting to finally feel like December. Hi, Rosie. So let's see what we have for announcements. This Friday, we have the OESD virtual Quilt As You Go event. If you are wanting to participate in that, we are asking that you go to our events calendar for the 5th and click on that, click on the class, and then in the description, there will be a link that will take you to get registered. And once that's completed, you're going to get email notifications about the event and instructions on how to join the event. And the event is free. Who doesn't love a free event? So if you want to learn some cool techniques as quilting as you go with your embroidery machine, and then you also get a free design for signing up. 69 degrees in Texas. Maureen, that sounds pretty nice. Hi, Charlene. And then next week, nope, not next week, this Friday, so the 5th still, we are going to be doing the live for the KimberBell Demo December. Hi, Lucido. All right, I have a joke. What did the duck... Christine, I'm telling you the joke, because telling it to people who can't respond to me is kind of... What did the duck say when he bought lipstick?
I don't know.
Put it on my bill.
That's pretty funny. But that's cute.
Hi, Pat.
No, I'm actually just setting those up.
And I'm not 100% sure if I've told this joke, but
No, I don't think there's anything.
the question is Google male or female?
Male.
Female. Because it doesn't let you finish a sentence before making a suggestion. All right. So, Linda, that's a good question. The OESD and Dime virtual event that's on the 5th, it is going to be live. And then with us having those events towards the end of the week, you actually get a little bit of a benefit because the video is only available for 48 hours. But with it being right before a weekend, it's actually available to be rewatched all the way up until Monday morning. Hi, Anne. Okay, so we are going to be continuing with the SweetHeart bench pillow from KimberBell. And last time we talked about how to cut the fabrics. I gave my suggestion on downloading the instructions onto your tablet. My goal is to save some trees and for people to love tablets. Hi, Linda. All right. So I'm going to turn you around. And what I do want to tell you, and let's try and move this so it's not going to be in the light. Oh wow, that's just not good at all. There's a really bad glare. Okay, I had to fix the glare. Hi, Emma. Hi, Linda. Moo. Okay, so we have our announcements done. And we are going to find our instructions. So one of the things that I wanted to point out that I think I neglected to go over yes, I can do that, Margodon. All right. So on our cutting instructions, the one thing I wanted to point out is one of the fabrics. Okay, so on our instructions for our cutting, the thing that I found was that the fabric scrap for Pippa is not actually a fabric scrap. It was a fat 16th. So I wanted to point that out to you guys. And you'll have a lot left over. And then with the way that the instructions are laid out, I'm going in order of the pillow. So our first block was the one with the peppermint on the left-hand side. And then we skip to doing the similar block for the end of our pillow. So it skips to block 7. Hi, Nora. And then when we're done with that block, it goes to block 3. So I'm looking for block 2, which happens to be like all the way at the bottom. All right, so it is going to be page 35. And we have what our fabric requirements are going to be and a picture. And then our background quilting. So we're going to go into our quilting file and we're going to look for Candy 1. That is the 6x8 design. KimberBell. SweetHeart Street bench pillow. Background quilting. And then it says Candy 1. Embroidery files. Okay, so we are going to look for the 6x8 design.
Yeah. Do you have ones that need to be clear from Littleton?
Yes, but I have not uploaded any.
All right, so we have our 6x8, and we're going to hit set. So I know we had a couple of people asking last time about the quilting, or, you know, what it looks like. Are they all the same? So the one that we had done before for the 1st and the 7th block are the horizontal lines of quilting, and it had like little teddy bears and candy wrappers. So this one is the one that has the words going in all different directions. So we have some words that are upside down, some words that are going vertical, some words that are going horizontal. So, and then a lot of different fonts going on. And then we're going to go in there and we're going to add our embroidery file. So we're going to repeat those steps. And we are looking for Grandma's Sweet Spot. So we have Grandma's and set. So last time we kind of covered what we're going to do here, but I am going to touch on that again. On our instructions, it shows us what we need to do for that background quilting and the placement of the design on top of the background quilting. Because like with many of the bench pillows, it's meant to look like it's street view. So street view, houses don't float. So we need to take our embroidery file and lower it down onto the edge of our quilting. And on the instructions, I think they do a really wonderful job of showing you how to accomplish that. So if we weren't going to be doing the quilting at the same time as the embroidery itself, their instructions are to first stitch a placement line on the stabilizer. You're going to take your fabric and fold it in half, and where this little notch is in the placement line is where you're going to place the fold, to then fold the fabric over, and then you can tape it in place and then continue doing the embroidery for the block. You would want to do this if you're not interested in having background quilting on your fabric. If you're doing the background quilting, I do recommend doing it this way, because if you were to do your background quilting beforehand, you're going to be going through double the amount of stabilizer. And we don't want to waste that. Oh, no, no. Okay, so we are going to edit, and then I'm going to get my arrows, and I'll zoom it in so that you guys can see a little bit better. Okay, so we can see that the edge of our house needs to come near these two lines here. So we are going to bring our house, whee, too far.
That's fine, yeah. I'm not sure where you're at. So anything on the wall can go back except for anything by Annie's is really all I have done.
Okay.
So,
I'll just stand your way.
yeah. No worries.
Okay, so in our instructions, it shows that our house is going to be on the edge think maybe I got it zoomed a little too well. Okay, so you have our two lines, and our house is going to sit in between the two lines, and you can see the satin stitch of our house is going to be slightly below that inner line. And right now, my satin stitching is sitting right at that line. So I'm going to scoot it down about right there. And we're going to hit OK. And we're going to go into embroidery. Where did I put my hoop? All right. So directly on top of our stabilizer, we're going to stitch our placement line so we know where to place our batting. Hi, Miss Patty Whitefield. I miss you. We are working on the KimberBell SweetHeart Street Bench Pillow. And we just went over how to get your quilting design loaded into the machine and then bring your embroidery design and move it to where it needs to be. And get started. So we've done block 1 and 7. This is block 2. It is called Grandma's Sweet Spot. And we're going to now place our batting to cover that area and tag it down. Tag it down. Hi, Marge. All right, then we're going to trim our excess. Oh, wow. Those skizzers are something terrible.
Yeah. They're right there. Those need to be sharpened. They're bad. No, I'm trying to use this.
We'll use this as an educational moment. For those of you who don't know, we sharpen scissors. All right, next it is going to do our placement line so we know where to place our background fabric. And then I have all of my pieces for block number 2 off to the side. I'm going to place the fabric in that area. And we're going to tack it down. All right, next it's going to do the background quilting. Which is in the light pink. All right, is there anybody who's all set for Christmas? When I first met Cindy, she told me that she normally has all of her Christmas shopping done by October. But personally, I like to take advantage of Black Friday deals. You know what I mean, jelly beans? Nora, the next time you go into Littleton, ask Cindy if she's done with her Christmas shopping. You might be surprised. Well, Patty, you can send your nephew over, and he can help us with our wrapping. And Patty Hunter, you're on top of it too. Nora, how are you liking your L890? We did our Christmas decorations on Monday. Today's Wednesday. And we watched one of the little elf movies about like the elves that come to visit the kids, and the Christmas Chronicles. Phyllis. Perfect, Nora. Yeah, this time of year is kind of busy. So, but with that pattern that you and I were looking at during the event, you could be making some presents, right? All right, so after we get done with the background quilting, we are going to start with our yellow thread, and we are going to place our yellow fabric for our house. Paula, do you know what serger class Kate is teaching this week? I can look too. The last one was the stocking with Jenny. So, Patty, the class that Nora's talking about is the Surged Jelly Roll Quilt Race that is going to be in Littleton on the 11th, which is a Thursday, and it is from 12 to 4. Oh, no problem, Linda. We are going to be working on the next block of Sweetheart Street bench pillow. So we've just completed the background quilting, and when we do that, they do let us know we need to look for the star so that we can advance through the parts of the placement if you were to not be doing the background quilting. So again, if we were not doing the background quilting, we would stitch directly on our placement line, or directly on our stabilizer, the placement line. We would fold our fabric together, right sides together lengthwise, so that our fold is on the right hand side. Then we would fold the bottom edge up 1 inch, and we would place that fold. So we have fold A, which is going to be vertical, and our fold B, which is going to be horizontal. And then we would place the corner of that fold right where the fold is for the notch, and line fold B up with the line at the bottom. And that would help us get the placement of our block where we need it to be so that our house is not going to be floating in the air. But if we brought in the background quilting and then brought our embroidery file in, we take our embroidery file and move it down so that it is at the edge of our quilting. So now we're going to look for the step that has the star, and we're going to skip to that step. So we are on the direction step 3, and it is going to do the placement line for our house and chimney. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to advance. So we now have our house and our chimney. So one of the things I do feel it is important to point out again is that we have the steps. So in KimberBell's instructions, we have these gold boxes. This is going to be the directions, or sorry, direction step. And then it's going to have the machine information down here. So we are going to have that be off. So if we did the background quilting and then brought in our embroidery design, it is going to be off, but you'll get used to that as you start using the background quilting more and more. Yes, Bernina Club is on Friday as well. Wow, Friday is a hot day, guys. Hot day. Okay, so I'm going to change my thread to yellow. And I'm not much of a yellow person, but if I was, this yellow would be my favorite. Nice pale yellow. And we are then going to stitch the placement line for our yellow fabric so we know where that fabric needs to be placed. And we're going to place our fabric.
If she can clear the cover, if I can get it.
I'm never good at
I don't know where my...
the bottom of it's all full of feet.
Where my little piece is. Okay, so I've lost a piece of my yellow apparently. So I'm improvising. And then we are going to trim the excess.
Yes. There's cheese in the fridge too.
All right, and now it's going to do the bricks. Hi, Bonnie. All right, so we're almost done with this. We're going to change our thread to white, and then we are going to stitch the placement line for the gable. So, Janet, I'm not sure what tablet you have. I have a Samsung tablet. I think it's the 10 Plus. But what I do is I email myself the instructions, and then I open that email from my tablet and I just download it. And you can program your tablet to open it up with whatever platform you would like to use. For my Samsung, I use GoodNotes. And so when I have that already programmed, when I go to download the instructions, it automatically opens a new book for me, and it's titled with the SweetHeart bench pillow. Oh, look it, I lied to you. We're gonna do the satin stitch. I'm reading all the words too quickly, apparently. There is a lot of detail in the house. What do you do there, Patty? All right, now we're going to change our thread to white. $13 inches, wow. All right, and we're going to stitch the placement line for the top of our house. And then we are placing our fabric. So this is one of the fabrics that is directional. So we want our stripes going up and down, or I guess I should say vertically. And we're going to tack that in place. And now it's going to do the satin stitch on the sides of our roof. All right, and we are going to keep our thread white, but we're going to stitch the placement line so we know where to place our felt for our front door. We're going to place our felt and tack it in place. Goes around twice, and then we're going to trim away the excess. And the satin stitch around the door is going to be done in this white thread.
Oh, you leave it? No. Let me know if I can help you as I walk out the door. I probably will give you some either tomorrow or Friday. Once. Okay. So, but I'll have to clear inventory, and then have you do the stuff that didn't get it. So. But I'm probably not even gonna count theirs until Monday.
All right, now we're going to do the satin around the door. not it's not snowing here anymore. Frosty the Snowman. I'm just waiting for somebody to tell me to not quitting my day job. Okay, then we're going to leave the thread white and we're going to do the satin stitch here in between the house and the roof. And it's got a decorative fill in the stitch, so it is super pretty. Nancy, I can certainly talk to Christine about that and see what we can possibly set up for that. All right, next we are going to switch our thread to the blue, which is one of my favorites. And we are going to stitch the placement line for our windows. Okay, so I'm going to let you in on a little secret. I do recommend using color keep topping, but when I think about how much time you take to make these projects, so we have 7 blocks in this bench pillow. Each block is ranging from 20 to 40-minute stitch outs, okay? If we're going to spend that amount of time, I do not want my fabric to have the possibility of seeing any of the background fabric through this. And this is a lighter fabric. So what I'm going to recommend doing is using color keep topping, which we don't have any open. So I'm going to improvise. I'm going to take a piece of batting and then place my fabric over it. And these windows are going to be covered with a satin stitch or a decorative looking stitch. So it is going to be okay. I don't want anything shining through. The top piece, maybe not so much, because it is the white striped fabric underneath. But I'm all about consistency. So if I'm going to do it for my other window, I don't want to leave that other window out. Can you ask Matt if my order from last comment sold was sent to Littleton? Nora, I can definitely tell you that it was sent to Littleton because I put it in the transfer to go down to you. All right, and now we're going to trim the excess. Now, if you really want to be anal about going this extra mile and putting the batting in there, you could just stitch the placement line and then do the tack down line twice. So you would repeat it to stitch the fabric down, but you could have it stitch just the batting down first and then do the tack down of the fabric just to make it the trimming of the batting a little bit easier. All right, next it's going to do the satin stitch. What's up? Who was that? Okay. Let me see.
I think it's gonna be a special order, but let me double check. Yeah, it'd be in the glass case.
Hi, Pat. We are working on the second block of the KimberBell SweetHeart Street bench pillow. Last week we did the first and second block. I'm sorry, first and seventh block, because they're at the beginning and the end of the pillow and very similar with the design. And now what we are going to do, it's going to do this final satin stitch at the bottom of this window, but we are going to then take the two pieces of vinyl and we're going to place it over our windows and tape them in place. Then it's going to do a stitch in the center of the decorative stitch and the satin stitches to stick that vinyl over the window to make it look like glass. Hi, Sandy. All right, so we have vinyl piece number 1. Do. So we're going to keep our thread in this color. And something's wrong. It became unthreaded. All right, so we're going to back it up. right, and we're going to redo that window.
By the time they close, if not, I'll get it in the morning. Okay? All right, thanks. Thank you.
And we're going to trim the excess.
They have 4 different prices on it, and they all say upgrade, but don't specify what's good.
Oh, okay.
All right, next, it's going to do the roof. So it is going to do this also in this blue color. And then we're almost done. So as it's doing this, I'm looking forward in my instructions, and I know that the next stitch is actually going to be done in the same thread, and it's going to stitch the eyelets. And then we are going to get our dark green thread to stitch out our leaves. And then we have our light green thread, and it will do the petals of the flower. And then we are going to do the pink. And the pink is going to be the pink lemonade pink, and it will do the center fill of the flower. And then we'll change the thread to the dark gray, which is cool gray. It will do the doorknob on the doorknob on our door, as well as the smoke coming out of the chimney. So I have all of those threads lined up and ready to go. right, next I'm going to get that dark green and we're going to stitch the stem of our flower. Okay, so I've kind of talked about what we're going to do to finish this, but I don't want to have to keep you for too long. My machine seems to be having some tension issues, so I'm going to play with that and get that done. So I'm going to do the stem of my flower. Then I'm going to change my thread to the light green to do the petals. And then I'm going to change my thread to the pink lemonade to do the center of my flower. Then the last step is going to be the darker gray. It's going to do a doorknob. And then it's going to stitch the smoke little design. It has a little heart. It's really cute. So it looks like it's coming out of the chimney. And then you're done. So this block has, hey, look at what I found on the back of my leather. All right, so for this block, we have 2 pieces of the leather that haven't been used. So when we went through and organized all of the materials and put them in so that they would be with the appropriate block, this is so that you can make the sign that's going to hang from the house. And you have a couple of different options in there. You can change it to say Nana's house or Grandma's house or welcome. So we will do that in a smaller hoop with a dissolve away mesh. And I'm going to use a smaller needle. So a 7511 or an 8012. And then with the font, I do actually recommend using the 80 weight thread. I personally am happier with the stitch out with that because the font is smaller. I just think that it looks better. So I am going to go ahead and let you all go for today. And I appreciate you spending the afternoon with us so that we can get the second block stitched out of the SweetHeart bench pillow. And if you have any questions, feel free to let us know and we'll see you tomorrow. Bye guys.